Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Christian with Reaper Disc, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Thought Space Temple. The Temple is an overstable approach disc coming in at 4303 that is made very flat topped with a low profile, perfect for those forehand approaches. It has a very blunt leading edge, meaning that it has some pretty slow flights and also some pretty reduced ground play. All things that are very highly valued whenever you're looking for something to approach the basket with confidence and leave yourself with some really short putts. So, how exactly does the Temple fly? Well, to answer that question, I got out on the practice field and threw it around for a little bit. I started off with a hyzer release. Thrown on a hyzer, this thing didn't really want to flip up at all and instead just held the same hyzer angle for the entire flight. When it was really fading, it didn't really have so much of a drifting right to left fade like other overstable discs do. Instead, this thing was fighting to get back down to the ground. So instead of leaving the initial line of flight and moving laterally for a ways before it got to the ground, as soon as it was like, hey, I'm going to fade, it got to the ground really, really fast. When thrown flat, it started flat and flew straight for a little bit, and then it slowly started to fade. And I was in the moment, I was a little kind of perplexed because I'm like, man, this thing was fairly overstable the last time I threw it. What happened now? And then it started slowing down, and the moment it started slowing down, it really started hooking up hard. When I say this thing faded, this thing faded. It seemed like it remembered how overstable it was and just jerked the wheel to the left and got down to the ground quick again. When thrown on an anhyzer, it started fighting the anhyzer really, really quickly. Because of its reduced glide, it didn't really want to pan very much. Instead, it got back to flat and got back over onto a hyzer angle, but then just stalled out and dropped down to the ground. And like I said, that's due to the fact that this doesn't really have any glide to it whatsoever. So instead of getting back to flat and panning from left to right for a while and getting those nice long lateral movements, it just, once it gets back to a hyzer, it just falls out of the sky. And there are good and bad things to that flight, and if you know how to utilize that and you come up with that situation on the course, you can be confident knowing that this disc is going to do it. Now, when thrown with more power, this thing never really flipped up. Instead, it continued to maintain the same angle for pretty well the entire flight, but punching forward more than with just a regular hyzer release. When thrown with a lot of power, it does tend to, at this point, have a longer drifting fade from right to left, whereas when thrown slower or with more moderate speeds, it fights to get to the ground faster. So all in all, I think the Temple is a fantastic choice in that 4-speed, overstable, hybrid, putter mid category that a lot of companies are trying to, get into their lineup. Alongside those other notably good forehand approach discs, the Temple fits in just perfectly. It has a lot of reduced glide, so it makes it very easy to range and be confident in your approaches, knowing it's not going to float past your target, as well as that blunted nose, meaning that it's going to have a nice slow flight there, it's not going to zip out of your hand, and it's not going to have a ton of ground play. Now, the Temple is currently offered in this grippier version of Nerve plastic, and being very soft and very grippy, you can count on having an excellent feel of the disc no matter the weather conditions. Alongside that, the softer flight plate and more energy absorbing, softness of the rim means that when it hits something, it absorbs more energy off of that impact and kind of falls a little closer rather than hitting something and ricocheting really far offline. You're not going to have a lot of ground play with this either because the soft plastic is going to grip onto the ground, and being that it absorbs more energy whenever it hits, instead of bouncing, it absorbs that energy and kind of settles up close to where it lands. it really does take a series of unfortunate events in order to get this thing to really bounce or roll or do anything of that matter, because it naturally wants to stay close to where it hits, and if it does glance off of something in flight, it doesn't go that far offline. These are all huge positives, especially for those of us who play in wooded areas a lot or on terrain that is very hilly and you need something to stick up close to the basket and not move. If you're looking for something reliably overstable with flights that you can repeat time after time, look no further than the Thought Space Temple. I recommend this to any player who is looking for that overstable approach disc, whether it be for forehands or backhands of any skill level. If you want a temple for yourself, click the link in the description of this video. That way you can head over to reaperdisc.com and find one there. Follow us on social media at ReaperDisc so you can keep up to date with all of our exclusive releases, new product drops, and restocks. Like this video and consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more. Again, I'm Christian with Reaper Discs, and I'll see you guys in the next video.